Hello, 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 everybody. I'm super excited. Sunday nights are quickly turning into one of my favorite days of the week because I get to hang out with you guys live. Of course, as always, I have my cell phone right here and I'm looking at the comments. So if you're one of the people who were prompt and are already here, I will shout you out at the beginning of this video. Just drop me a little note. And I actually changed the settings this week so that there's less of a delay and I can see your comments a lot faster. So hopefully it'll be a little bit of an improvement from last week. But I'm really excited. I have a bunch of people saying that they were excited for this week's episode and they were looking forward to it. If this is your first time joining in, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I'm Yonci. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. Wanted to tell you a little bit about myself really quick. I am a full-time content creator as of this past summer. Hallelujah, hallelujah. I am a podcaster. I'm actually on two separate podcasts. One is called Ear Candy the Show, and I co-host with Triune, and we talk about love, dating, sex, and relationships. I also have a second podcast, the newer of the two, called The New Normal Podcast. And that is with my co-host Triune as well, and Doughboy. And right now that one is on video, so you can watch us every week on YouTube, and we cover hot topics. And we also get into juicy debates talking about love and other things like that. So it's a lot of fun. Make sure you guys check it out. After the video is done, I'll post all the links below so you can click that. If you would like to show your girl some support and you would also like to be in the live videos, you guys will see each week that I will cut to a little video screen where you can see people commenting live from the comfort of their home. You can do that if you are a part of my Patreon group. That Patreon group is an awesome group that helps to support me, and in exchange for the support that they give me each month, I give them exclusive content. I give them access to material that nobody else has. I give them the ability to vote on certain things that I want your opinion on, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's there. If you're interested, that's patreon.com/Yonci, but I'll leave that information at the end. Just let me know. All right, guys, so I'm super excited. Let me see who's on here. Ooh, Seattle, Washington. Hey, what's up? What's up, Sanders Robinson? That's a cool name, Sanders. Cy says, Cy Westbrooks. I'm trying to remember if it's Cy. Each week I doubt myself. She says, hey guys, and drop your city and state. Let me know. I love to see where everybody is listening from. We had somebody from overseas last time. That was pretty cool. All right, so this is going to be a really, really exciting episode because one, the content is really cool, but two, I'm trying something out brand new for the first time. I want to show you guys a video that made a big impact on me, and if I do everything right, you guys will be able to watch it with me, or at least parts of it. I'm going to show you little clips. So cross your fingers for me, because this is a lot, trying to be thinking, talking to you guys, and operating the software behind the scenes, because, you know, we don't want a little janky broadcast. We want to have all the bells and whistles. So each week I'm going to try to push myself a little bit more to make it a little more razzle dazzle for you. Okay. Anyway, so let's just get right into it. Let's see. She said, yes, it is. Yes. Okay. Let's get right into it. So in a normal, healthy relationship, I didn't give you guys the topic, did I? The topic today is logical thinkers versus emotional feelers. And as I'm doing this episode, you guys can assess whether you are more so a logical, because we're not all or none, but if you're a logical thinker or an emotional feeler, and see what kind of person you are, a partner in the relationship. Now, in an ideal relationship, you have two respectful people who care about each other's opinions, and you guys try to learn each other's likes and dislikes, and as much as possible, not push each other's buttons and do the things that make each other happy. One of the other things that I have learned is that it's really important that you don't try to change the person, which is why it's super important to make sure that you are compatible. The more compatible you are, the more stuff you're going to naturally get along with. The least compatible you are, the more tempting it's going to be to try to change your partner, which will then lead them to resenting you and you resenting them, and it's just no bueno. The other thing that I strongly want to recommend is this book by Gary Chapman. I talk about it all the time. It's called The 5 Love Languages, and I'm going to go over them really quickly. If you're watching, comment 5 if you guys are familiar with the 5 love languages, because it's very popular, but I'm always still shocked to find out there are people in this earth who haven't heard of it. It's really important because what it's saying is that the author discovered that there are people who are truly loving their partner, but their partner can't feel it. And essentially, he uses the analogy of a language. Imagine if I said, je t'aime, je t'aime, je t'aime, and I'm saying that, or I'm saying te amo, te amo, te amo. You can hear me speaking, but it doesn't translate to you because you don't speak French or you don't speak Spanish. I'm saying I love you. Until I say I love you in your native tongue, which is English probably if you're watching this, you're not going to appreciate the fact that I'm saying I love you. And if something that is like saying I love you makes you happy, even though I'm doing it, you're not getting the benefits of it. Make sense? So he breaks it down into 5 love languages. And oh yeah, Sanders knows. He said, I'm a big acts of service guy. Now, is it acts of service receiving or giving? I hear the wrong hand gesture there. Let me know if it's receiving or giving, because that makes a difference as well. So here are the top 5. I'll start off with acts of service because Sanders just mentioned that. But acts of service, this is my mom. An acts of service person shows and receives love usually by doing things for people. Their logic is, I'm going to take the burden off of you. So they are burden lifters. My mom would cook for us. She would clean for us. She would do our laundry. She would pack our lunches. She would do things to make sure that we had what we needed. I remember one time coming home from vacation with my husband, and she had stayed back at our house with the children, and I almost cried because you know how tired you are after a long trip. She had gone in the room, turned down the bed, put my slippers next to it, and laid the robe out. She put it out there hotel style. Hang on one second, guys. I think my system is overheating, so I can't see anything. I'm looking at a black screen, but hopefully you guys can see. Okay, I can see on my phone that you guys can see. We're just going to say a little prayer over this system. I've had my laptop going for about 4 hours before this, and so it might have overheated. All right, so let me try something. You guys, fingers crossed this does not make me lose connection with you guys. Whew, hallelujah. Talk about the stresses of live streaming. Okay, I had to like click the on off button. For some reason that worked. Okay, so anyway, acts of service. So for my mom, you know, for her, if you really wanted to make her day, you could come in and do the dishes. So she's coming in thinking, I have the dishes to do. You could do the dishes for her. Or jump in and clean the bathroom while she's cleaning the living room. That's how you help an active service person feel loved. You take something off their plate, do an errand for them that they would have normally done, offer to take the kids to soccer practice. That's how you make an active service person feel loved. Then you have one that a lot of people give grief about this, but it's gifts. And I think a lot of times people think that gifts is like a gold digger type, but it's not like gifts where you're buying someone a Rolls Royce or you're buying them, you know, an expensive gift, some Birkin bag. It can be, but the spectrum can be, it can range from, you know, very expensive to not costing anything at all. A gift could be you bringing food to them, which could also kind of be tied in with acts of service, but it could be, I thought about you and I'm bringing you this muffin. I had somebody do me a huge favor, bring me back from the airport and store their car because they live close to the airport. That was huge for me. And so I brought a little treat when I came. And so it was a big deal. You know, they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. I didn't have to do it, but it was a little gesture, and that little gesture made them feel love. So it could be a little handwritten note, putting a handwritten note in the person's suitcase when they're going to go travel. That's a little gift. You're giving them a gift. It doesn't have to cost money. It's the idea that that person put value on giving of themselves to you in that way. Another one is physical touch. Okay, there are a lot of people who feel love with physical touch. You could tell them you love them all day long. You could run errands for them. You could get them things. But if you're not laying on them, touching them, kissing them, and it doesn't have to be sexual, but they yearn for you to hold their hand. They want you to touch the small of their back. They want their feet rubbed. Physical touch is how they feel love. So that's an easy one to give. Hey, Trinicia. Hey, girl. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Okay, the next one. So we've gone over acts of service, gifts, physical touch. This one is one of my faves. Is words of affirmation. The Bible even says there's power of life and death in the tongue. And so I bet you guys can all remember something that somebody said to you as a kid that stuck with you. something that was empowering. But words of affirmation is just anything that is affirming your partner. You know, I love you so much. It could even be an affirmation from the gift that you gave. You know, man, that foot rub was amazing. Anything that you could say with your words to empower them and make them feel good is huge. And that's pretty easy if you're with someone with words of affirmation, because it doesn't really cost you time, money, or much energy. The last one, which is my top one, and I'll tell you why at first I was confused about which one was my top one, but the top one is quality time, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Quality time doesn't mean that you're just in the room with the person. They want you to be present emotionally. Not the TV on, not on your phone, not texting, not scrolling through your social media or your various apps, not looking up from the newspaper. It's one-on-one time. So it could be a walk where you guys are maybe holding hands and talking, or you're sitting across the table looking to each other's eyes. You guys have lined up a sitter or asked the older child to watch the younger ones in the other room. It's showing that, hey, I'm stopping everything in the world and I'm giving you my undivided attention. It could be as little as 2 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. Whatever it is, that person feels so charged up. For me, for example, I could be working all day long. But if I know that my partner is making an effort to reach out to me at some point via FaceTime or in person, it fills my little love tank. And I used to get confused because I really love words of affirmation and I love physical touch. But what I realized is that if somebody doesn't give me quality time, I don't want their physical touch. If they don't give me their quality time, I don't believe their words of affirmation. So the thing that you can't go without, it's kind of the door that opens to your other love languages. You have other ones that you might have at second and third place, but most people have that one thing that opens up the doors to the others. All right, guys, so those are the 5 love languages. I didn't mean to go so long into it, but I just think it's amazing. Again, it's Dr. Gary Chapman. If you want to take the test, there's a free, we like free 99. There's a free test. Just Google love languages test, 5 love languages test, and it'll ask you various questions. Would you rather this or this or this or that? And it'll determine your love language. It's pretty cool. But it's some good stuff. Magnus says, words, I need words. Cy Westbrook says, I believe all of them are mine. And I think we all like them all in some degree. There's just a ranking. So at least if you know your partner, you can do things in order and you'll get more bang for your buck. So for example, if you know that your partner really likes gifts and, you know, physical touch is somewhere lower on the list, you're going to want to start with a gift and then, you know, use the other stuff in order of importance. What was I just going to say to you guys that fast? You can take your test. Oh, so this is really helpful. So try to figure out what your partner's love language is, because let's use the example of my parents. My dad's love language, one of his love languages would be, let's say, words of affirmation or physical touch. So my dad would really benefit from a neck rub, a back rub, or something more for my mom. My mom would love the dishes to be clean. So if he wants to connect, he's going to want to do things to put her at ease, which is take those things off of her, you know, unload her plate, so to speak, so that she can enjoy the other activities, because that's her primary thing, is acts of service. All right, so that's some stuff here. Okay, so I want to say this too, and I want to try to remember to say it each week because I feel like it's super important. We talk about red flags all the time. We talk about you know, boundaries and things like that, and things that you should look out for in a partner. I think that one of the most important 2 characteristics that you should be on the lookout for in a potential mate are these 2 most deadly relationship killers. One is pride, and the other is self-centeredness. If you have a person who is prideful, they're going to be always competing with that ego, and they're always going to want to cater to that versus doing what's right. So you're almost always going to lose. It's really hard to battle somebody's ego. The second thing is self-centeredness. Self-centeredness may as well be like a mistress, or whatever the guy's version of mistress is, because they're always catering to themselves. There's always a third person they're putting in front of you. It's them. So watch out for those 2. Other things you can wiggle around, but those 2 are really difficult. And along the lines of self-centeredness is the sociopath, which we're going to get into. So tonight we're going to talk about the sociopath. There's a video of a gentleman who recognized that something was amiss. He actually went to seek help, which is very unusual for people like that. Narcissists, for example, do not seek help because they don't think they have a problem. But this guy reached out, and he also went so far as to reach out to this interviewer because he wanted to help other people who were suffering from what he had, or what he is going through, because you can't get cured from it. You can just learn to cope with it and be a better member of society. But he wanted to help other sociopaths to recognize if they are sociopaths, and if they are, to go get help. And not that I expect anyone watching to necessarily be a sociopath, but there can be negative and toxic behavior patterns that are part of the sociopath's diagnosis. And so I really want to get into that. Strangely enough, a sociopath is an extremely logical thinker, but it excludes emotions altogether. And we're going to contrast that with an empath, which is so in tune with their emotions that a lot of times they exclude the logic, okay? And they can do things that hurt them because they're just all about emotions and not so much logic. I think that it's really important for us to have various degrees on the spectrum, because all or none is not a good thing. All right, so to start out, we're going to talk about empaths. An empath is a person with they said paranormal, I don't think it's paranormal, but paranormal ability to apprehend the mental or emotional state of another individual. Here are some characteristics, and I identify very strongly with 75% of them. And by the way, it's about 15 to 20% of the population. So this is not the norm, okay? This is a fringe of society. They're highly sensitive. I can't stress it enough. Highly sensitive. And that's even to sounds, smells, or sensations. They are deeply tuned into the feelings of people around them. They don't just feel for somebody. Oh, I can feel what you're going through. No, they actually feel with you. And this is something interesting that people are surprised to learn. I am such an empath that if somebody gets embarrassed, my face will actually feel flushed. I will experience the physical effects of what that person is going through. And it used to be so bad that I didn't want to call somebody out, even with their bad behavior, because I would already start to experience the emotions I would have felt if I got called out. It's bizarre, and it didn't make sense until I started researching empaths and understanding what that meant. So those of you watching, if you identify, you'll get some answers. It's hard to talk nonstop, you guys. All right. Trinicia says, I'm an empath. Okay, Creole Covington, I hope I'm saying that. Creole Covington says, what's up, Yonci? Sending love from Nashville, Tennessee. Nice. Very nice. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Okay, let's see. So, this is an empath. They lack the filters that most people use to protect themselves from excessive stimulation and can't help but take in surrounding emotions and energies. So they miss that little filter, which if you contrast it with a psychopath, I'm sorry, not a psychopath, it's very close, sociopath, the sociopath is 100% filtered. They don't have an emotion. There are no emotions because it's all filtered through logic. Sai says it's draining. Yes, that's actually on the list here. They have major empathy, obviously. Empath is based on empathy, which means you feel with others. They're very easily overwhelmed because it's sensory overload. They have very strong intuition. And that is such a gift. Oh my God. They're deeply caring. That's a positive thing. Extremely, because they can feel it. It's harder for them to hurt others because they're going through it themselves. So they may as well be hurting themselves by doing it to somebody else. Problem solving, that one actually surprised me. But I think it's probably because they can feel things, so they don't want it to just be floating out there. They want it to be taken care of. They have a need for rest a lot. And I know for me, I don't know if it's related because mine was stress induced and it's just the ongoing effects, but I struggle from anxiety attacks from time to time. And I'm wondering, as I did the research for this video, if it has anything to do with being an empath, because there's a lot I'm going through all the time. And then finally, the dislike of the dislike of conflict, which is what I was explaining about having difficulty calling people out, because I would basically experience that person's experience before it even happened. And so I would talk myself out of it because I was like, I don't want to experience that emotion. I don't want to experience that discomfort, the awkwardness. It says it's difficult to watch someone struggle, and their natural inclination is to ease the other person's distress, even if it means absorbing it themselves. So it's like they're falling on grenades because they don't want the other one to get exploded on. So they warn to be careful not to burn out or neglect your own needs or boundaries. Don't sacrifice yourself to make others feel more comfortable. And this makes us very vulnerable targets to manipulators, because we already have a desire to make people comfortable, and then they can prey upon that. You see where we're going here? All right. Bear with me, guys. We got to get all these definitions out of the way, because this video is going to make a lot of sense for you after. Okay. People like us take criticism more personally. These are empaths. And then arguments and fights cause a lot of distress, taking on both people's emotions. For me, if I have a stressful day based on interactions with somebody else, let's say, for example, if someone's really nasty to me, it will physically drain me to the point where I want to go to sleep, and I have to actively push through, get myself back to a healthy place, and then be able to function. And I have to really use logic. For those of you guys who watch my videos, my pre-recorded videos that I drop during the week, and I apologize, guys, I've missed 2 weeks. I've been going through a lot, traveling and trying to figure out these technical glitches, and I've been so stressed out that the last 2 weeks I haven't dropped. But normally I drop Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I've been giving tips and tricks that I have learned over the past 6 years on how to deal with anxiety, how to get stronger when it comes to self-discipline. But a lot of it is the result of self-talk. And so empaths really have to learn how to self-talk, because somebody who doesn't struggle with what we have, it naturally happens. They naturally self-talk. Get out of here. That's bad. Move on. When you're an empath, you have to be very aware of what's going on. You have to learn to override the crazy wave of emotions and talk to yourself and get your logical brain stronger than your emotional waves. It's a whole lot, you guys. If you can relate, let me know. How many empaths do I have? I have one person saying they're an empath. How many people watching considers yourself an empath or can identify with the things that I'm sharing? Okay, they have boundary issues. They have a hard time setting boundaries. They keep giving in even though they're worn out. And a lot of times they mistake creating boundaries for not being loving. Let's say, for example, if you have a user and the person is just asking too much, like let's take a mama's boy, right? A mama's boy, for example, is doing all these things. Well, a healthy person with a healthy relationship with their mother would say, Mom, no, I'm not going to leave my wife and kids and go over and fix your plumbing in the middle of the night. Here's the number to a plumber, let's get it set up or whatever. The person who doesn't have a healthy relationship or a healthy view would think that that's mean. Oh, I can't let mommy down. And so the research that I did, the article was recommending that you remind yourself that you actually love your friends and family more when you set boundaries, because it allows you to be the best version of yourself. Whew, that's a lot to say. All right, we're easily loaded, we're easily fatigued, we get drained, and we need to rest, which is kind of repeat what I was saying before. Also, we have a unique view of the world. This can be difficult for me because I am in tune with things on a very deep level, not to toot my own horn, but because I can sense things and I can feel things a lot of times before the other person even has those things come up to the surface, it can make it difficult to have a conversation with me, because it might seem like I'm 12 feet underground and they're just trying to have a conversation on the surface. So it does come with its challenges, but it also allows us to really get down to the nitty gritty and really talk about the root cause. I think a lot of people struggle because they talk about the symptoms in a relationship and they never get to the root. They never diagnose what the actual problem is. And so it's like having a weed that keeps popping up. If you never tear that root up, you're just going to keep pulling the little plants out of the top of the surface. But really, you need to dig into the surface, into the ground below the surface and find the root of it. And that's where a lot of the healing comes in. But we can be draining to people who are just logical and they don't think that all this stuff is really relevant. It also says these people tend to love nature. They tend to dislike crowds. Crowds don't bother me. Trouble fitting in, not my struggle either. But they're more vulnerable to toxic behaviors and manipulation. So those are all the factors of an empath. Sai says, I'm a strong empath. It's a blessing and a curse. 1000%. We have to learn to control it. If it controls us, we are goners. But it's like being in a high powered car, it can get you where you need to go, but it can also kill you. You got to learn how to control it. So that was talking about the empath. And now I want to get into the sociopath. Okay. A sociopath has an antisocial personality disorder. This is different from a psychopath because a psychopath is usually more on the dangerous side and it usually has a criminal element. A sociopath is just not a nice person. It's a self-centered person, which is why I started out with the 2 relationship killers, pride and self-centeredness. Look out for this, guys. A sociopath cannot understand others' feelings. It's not that they don't want to, they cannot. Just like an empath cannot disassociate from other people's feelings, they can physically feel what they're feeling. The sociopath doesn't understand it. And the guy in the video that I'm going to show you describes it from his own mouth, what it was like when his grandfather passed away. And it's so interesting hearing it from the horse's mouth. Sai says, I know last month it took a good 2 to 3 weeks to get back to myself. I'm telling you, I do my own little therapy when things hit me. I had someone come for me the other day, maybe a week ago now. They came for me and, I should have walked away when I first saw it, but I kept watching. It was like an avalanche. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more I read, the stuff that was happening, it was really cyberbullying. It was the first time that had ever happened to me, though, in my whole social media career. But it was intense and I was drained. I was fatigued. And me working for myself, I don't have the luxury of being fatigued emotionally and physically. I have a lot to do. I have to stay on schedule. And so it's super important for me to be able to function and having children, as a parent. You don't, ain't nobody got time for that. Sociopaths often break the rules or make impulsive decisions without feeling guilty for the harm they cause. And again, he talks about this as well. The thrill seeking that he gets. They may use mind games to control friends, family members, coworkers, and even strangers. And they don't often make long-term plans. Ladies, have you noticed that? They often behave without thinking about the consequences. The first thing that I could think about is somebody cheating. You're just so caught up in the moment. You don't think about the long-term consequences and you don't care about the other person's feelings. You're not putting yourself in their shoes going, how in the world would I feel if my spouse or my mate cheated on me? They show aggressive or aggravated behavior and they constantly get into fights or physically harm others. They don't consider their own safety or the safety of others. A lot of them are thrill seekers. They don't follow up on personal or professional responsibilities. They don't feel remorse or guilt for having harmed or mistreated others. They can't process feelings. Guilt is a feeling. Remorse is a feeling. They are cold. They come across as cold. They don't show emotions or invest in the lives of others. I will never forget. I have a friend of mine who has a lot of these traits. And I remember finding out that a friend of mine took his own life. And I don't think before that point I'd ever known someone who took his own life. And the thing that was so sad was that person had reached out to me not right before, like the same day, but had reached out and said, you're such a positive person. Whenever I talk to you, I feel so amazing. Can we just do lunch? And I always made my schedule. I worked for an entrepreneur, and so I always made my schedule. And literally out of like 3 years, I think that was the only time, or maybe one of 2 times, that my boss ever asked me to do something during the time that I would have taken a lunch, because I always schedule myself. And I felt so terrible. I reached out and I said, hey, I'm so sorry, but my boss asked me to do something. Can we postpone? Postponed, and then days later, I see on social media that he took his life. I cannot explain the level of torment that I felt. It was beyond guilt. It was torment. And I reached out to my friend who I was pretty close to at the time, and I am sobbing hysterically and explaining the situation. And I'm trying to give the backstory like I just gave you guys. And he says, can you just get to the point? And I was like, I truly don't think that he could process, after knowing him for longer, I don't think he processes emotions the way other people do. He told a story about how, wow, I'm realizing this as I'm talking to you guys. He told a story about how a really dear friend of his, was on a trip with him. So it was just the two of us, and found out his father passed away. And he said it physically made him uncomfortable to be around the guy who was just hysterical, like hysterical. Somebody like me, I would be crying too, even if I didn't know the dad. Even if I didn't know the guy, he'd be a stranger. If I see a stranger cry, I'm crying, guaranteed. I would have been hugging him, holding him, consoling him, encouraging him. He was like, I'm gonna let you do your thing, I'll give you some space, and left the room with the guy to just cry by himself in the living room. So there are people who just, they don't experience emotions. And so that's just what it is. Tracy says, wow. Let's see. They have a sense of superiority and strong unwavering opinions. Again, you're going to see in this video the guy talking about that directly. They don't learn from mistakes. They have a hard time keeping positive friendships and relationships. They try to control others by intimidating them or threatening them. They frequently get into legal trouble and perform criminal acts. They take risks at the expense of themselves or others. And you guys think about this. If you've been around people like this, it's all going to start making sense, okay? Sometimes they threaten suicide without ever acting on these threats because, again, it's manipulation. And a lot of times they get addicted to drugs, alcohol, or other substances. Okay, so sometimes, I could be a little Pollyanna. When I, entered adulthood, I really didn't think that there people existed like that. Because everything in the world I saw through my lens. And I'm not a manipulator. I mean, I'm sure on some degree I've pouted or batted my eyelashes, so in some degree. But I should say this, I don't get off on manipulating people. I don't derive any pleasure knowing that I did something and then changed your behavior. Well, I guess technically I went into marketing, and that's what marketing's all about. But it's not sinister. It's there, it's nothing that's that I would regret, or something that I know that is not in that person's best interest. And so it shocked me to find out that there are people like this who literally that's all it is. They get off on manipulating other people. And so I don't want to pigeonhole and make it like a male-female thing, but a lot of times it tends to be women who get manipulated by manipulators. And so I really want people to think about this and see it through the lens of dating, so that you can see what to look out for. Because if you tend to be a healer, a nurturer, a caretaker, an empath, you are vulnerable and wide open to a manipulator. They are licking their chops like a fox in a hen house. So basically at the end of the day, these people are self-serving. And, if we look at it, everybody is self-serving to some degree. We look out for ourselves, we feed ourselves, we clothe ourselves. But this is the extreme. This person will do it at the expense of others. And so for most people, unless you're in an end times apocalyptic setting, no one is going to really just sabotage another person so they can get ahead. They're going to, within reason, try to take just their piece of the pie and not hurt somebody else in the result. All right, so without further ado, let's get into this. Now, you guys, this requires a lot. So I'm going to try to do it as fast as possible in between setting it up. But I'm going to cue it up because I'm not going to play the whole video. The whole video is like 30 minutes long. But I want to cue it up so you can see the different parts of this video. But just bear with me because obviously I'll have to try to focus while I get this thing set up. So this stuff, super interesting to me. All right, so here we go. This is, the guy asks him, the interviewer asked the gentleman, what do you think when you hear the term sociopath? All right, guys, so here we go. Let me know if you can hear it okay.
When you hear the term sociopath? Regular person with less emotions, to be honest. Because that's what really most people would be that have antisocial personality, personality disorder. It's just, the sensations we feel. We don't get a lot from the external world. And then again, everything is on a spectrum, so I can't necessarily speak to other people's experiences, but I know my own experience. That's how it is.
All right, so he is explaining, hang on guys, see, this is where I have to get better at this. All right, so he's explaining how he sees it. And this is such a trip because I thought that he was going to say that he always knew he was different. He actually felt like everybody else was different than him. And I don't want to give too much away, but let me set this up. Okay, this next scene, he asked him, what was it like before you're self-aware? And as I told you before, this is not the norm. Most people do not try to do the work and figure out what's wrong.
To be you?
Hang on, guys, sorry. Most people don't try to do the work and figure out what's wrong. So this guy is very unusual in that he's trying to get help. And so he reached out to this gentleman and wanted to do an interview because he wanted to help other people in his shoes understand that they could get help and they could function. They can't get cured, but they can function within society and try to contribute in a positive way instead of just using people and manipulating, which is what they're known to do. And so this segment here, he said, what is it like before you became self-aware? All right, so let me cue it back up here.
I would say it was very confusing. Very confusing because I didn't quite understand why it was. I didn't feel the way regular people felt. And I would often do things that would be, categorized as sensation chasing. So you would engage in illegal activities, for example, and if you don't get caught, that's quite a rush. It's quite a rush to not get caught doing something. That's things that I used to do, lying and manipulating people. That gave me a sense of power in a way because, I can't necessarily feel anything myself in a way. So it gave me a sense of power to know that I can control other people's feelings.
All right, so this blew me away because like I said, I did not know that was a thing. And you'll notice with this guy, as he's talking, the guy will ask him certain questions. He has dimples, which the dimples give him away too. You guys, we can't hide it when we smile because the dimples will show first. But his face will kind of start to, you could tell he's getting joy. And even just retelling the story, even though he's working on himself, you can see the joy he gets just recalling it. They just like it. They like it. That's why it's really important if you encounter a manipulator, you cannot try to change them. They are masters. This is something they do by default. They don't have to try. So you are not equipped to meet them at their level. And don't convince yourself that you can change them or motivate them in any way because they're not motivated by the emotions like we are. They like knowing they're controlling you. So the angrier you get, they're like, got him, like that gif. So don't think that you're getting them, okay? All right, so let me cue this up. Let me know if you guys are enjoying this because I loved this interview. All right, so the next one, it says, what is it like to be you? So now we can hear from his perspective what it's like to be a sociopath. And again, this doesn't mean that they're criminals. That's a psychopath. But this is just in his words, what it's like in his experience. Okay, here we go.
What is it like to be you?
I'll say it's pretty average, to be honest. If you were on the outside looking in, you would say that it was pretty boring. Because for the most part, what I tend to do now is I tend to just really stick to myself. Because I have to be very careful about how I'm interacting with people and under what context I'm interacting with people. So I tend to limit anything that would be negative for me.
Why do you have to limit yourself?
Because if I encounter a certain kind of person, and if I'm talking to you and I sense a level of weakness, I get kind of the urge to prey upon that. Oof. In a way. So in order for me to kind of mitigate that, I definitely limit my social interactions. And I have to make sure it happens underneath the right context. Otherwise, I just, I try to stay away from it.
I have to be fully transparent.
All right, so I'm going to skip to the next section when he explains what it means for him to prey upon somebody, okay? So pay close attention.
So the way it would work for me is I'll speak to someone. I won't really tell them much about me. They'll tell me about them, and then once they tell me about them, I'll kind of form a personality. I'll exaggerate certain features about my own personality to match what it is that they're looking to see. And then once I get my goal, whatever that goal is, then I'm done with the situation.
Self-centered.
And then I move on. I've had feelings that I was strange as long as I can remember.
What was it like to feel strange at a young?
Okay, so let's see. Did I want you guys? Okay, so I'm gonna skip to this next part. So when he senses weakness, it's like that's when he's pouncing. He's gonna talk about realizing that that other kids were different from him, and I don't want to give too much away. So just check this out. All right, so he's talking about when he was a child.
As a kid, I thought they were the weird ones, and
What was weird about them to you?
Like, why are y'all? I guess why do you get so sad at certain things? Why do you get so excited over certain things? Like, it's not. I just looked at it like it's not natural. I wasn't really able to relate to other people, and when people would get extremely angry or extremely sad, I would say as a kid more so I would actually get annoyed, or if people would get overjoyed, and sometimes people get super excited, they jump up and down, they clap. As a kid I would get annoyed by that because it's like I don't understand what's the purpose of this overt display. It doesn't do anything for anyone. Just the fact that you got good news, it doesn't make the good news better if you jump up and down about it. So I sat back and I watched people, and I watched how they were able to do things, and I used this information to outsmart people. I was able to outsmart a lot of my teachers. That's kind of how it started, the manipulation and the lying. I would outsmart a lot of my teachers. I would come up with lies on the spot. Like, I would come into class and my teacher would ask, "Where's the homework?" I would tell her, "Oh, my dog, he got rushed to the hospital last night. We were there late until about 3 a.m. and there was this problem and that problem and that problem. And I don't even have a dog, never had a dog."
So would it be correct to say that when you meet somebody, you kind of size them up, and you say, okay, this person shouldn't or should be manipulated?
It's not should or shouldn't be. If I have something that I want to get, then I'm gonna do my best to get it.
Since I walked in here and we started talking, have you sized me up at all and analyzed any of my weaknesses and how they could be manipulated?
All right, so this stuff is this stuff is super interesting. I'm gonna put the link, you guys. If you're interested, let me know. I'll put the link so you guys can watch the whole thing, because I don't want to show the entire thing, obviously, while I'm doing this live. But it's really interesting. He talks about if you can ever really trust a sociopath, and he said the only way you really know if a person is a manipulator is until they start manipulating you. So they have to actually do something to you for you to find out. So it's really tough. He gives a lot of insight. He says that it's very difficult for him. The interviewer asked him if he ever wants to be in a relationship or be married and have kids and all that. And he said that he thinks it would be nice, but he's not sure if he wants to, because he said because he doesn't feel emotions, it's difficult for people to truly, I guess it's like feel appreciated, for lack of a better word, because we say, I feel emotions, I feel butterflies, I'm excited to see you, what have you. The way he looks at it is, what can this person do for me? It's very like, it would be, I guess, like going to buy a tool. Do I need this tool? Is it going to help me? Can I, afford it? And he looks at people that way. He said, if they have benefits that serve me, then it makes sense for me to move forward. So let's just say he wants children. Well, she's a woman. She has a womb. She can bear children. There's not emotions behind it. And so he said most people want to feel wanted and needed and desired, and it's not that way. I'll give an example of, I remember when I was married and I said, I love words of affirmation. And so I said to my ex-husband, how come you never tell me that I'm beautiful? I'll hear it from strangers, but I just want to hear it from my husband. He said, obviously, I think you're beautiful. I married you. He's like, if anything changes, I'll let you know. That was very logical. Obviously, if he found me attractive, I didn't change. My looks were the same. So why would he need to tell me? That was logic. And I'm an emotional person, so I didn't really have an answer. I'm just like, well, I like it. And this is why I think it's so important for you to know your person's love language, because even if it doesn't make sense to you, you need to do it. And I'll tell myself, I did not realize that one of my ex-husband's love languages were acts of service. So making him, his favorite meal, coming home to a clean house, sneaking off and getting his car detailed, those types of things would really speak volumes to him. And for me, I used to joke and say, how does a clean toilet turn you on? It didn't matter that I didn't equate that with love. It just mattered that I knew that's what my partner wanted. And the funny thing is that it wasn't until I started to receive certain things that I realized, oh, it does feel kind of nice when you realize that somebody did something solely for the purpose of taking it off your plate and lightening your load. That does feel good. It's just not my primary. But I do remember one time I actually shed a tear when somebody volunteered, without me asking, to take out my trash. As a single mom and somebody who was the only person taking care of the house for the most part, that was a big deal. And so I was super, super grateful. And now that I get older, I do understand a little bit more about the different love languages. I want to see which other ones that I want to show you. Let me actually show you this one. This is his warning to people about the high likelihood of manipulation if you're dealing with a sociopath. All right, so let me cue this up, you guys. Let's see here. Okay. And if you guys have any questions, by the way, I'm checking my phone as I'm going, so you could ask me if there's anything you want to ask. All right, here we go.
Yes, because you do have to be relatively careful when you're dealing with someone who truly has an antisocial personality disorder. It's not necessarily a thing where there's gonna be physical violence, or you're gonna be hurt or anything like that. But if that person doesn't have insight as to how their actions actually affect other people, I would say the likelihood for you being manipulated, even if it's in a small way, is going to be very high, because most people with sociopathic tendencies, they're not going to always formulate super grand schemes to take advantage of people. Sometimes it would just be, I'm looking to get lunch today, so let me manipulate this person over here so I can get $10.
I want you to see this next part too. That he asked if he sees himself, if this guy here sees himself as being better than others. And remember, we talked about that earlier when I was saying the signs of a sociopath. They do. That's why they're so arrogant and they can talk down to other people, because they really do believe that they are smarter, more intelligent, whatever. And they don't respect the other person.
As better than other people.
Yeah, definitely. But I do my best to kind of combat that, because that comes from, outsmarting people. You get this sense of, inflated sense of self, almost narcissistic, I would say.
Do you believe you're better than me?
I would say based off of my belief system, no.
Now, did you guys catch that smile? He was like, no. I don't think that was his first answer. All right, here's my last one I want to show you. It said, do you have the ability to feel empathy towards others? So I want you to see how he words it. A lot of the stuff I could summarize, but to me, it's just different hearing it coming out of the horse's mouth. All right, let's see here.
More comfortable.
Do you have the capability of feeling empathy for others?
Not in the same way that an average person would. So say, for example, if someone came up to you and they told you, oh, my grandma just died last night. You may feel intrinsically sad when they tell you that. You may feel sensations almost as if your own grandmother passed away. For me, it's not like that. I won't say that I don't care, that's harsh, but it doesn't make me sad to hear that at all. So instead, what I'll have to do is I'll have to logically understand that, okay, this is an event that people typically get sad at. So I would have to find words of confidence to give them. I'm sorry that happened to you. I know that must be hard. Is there anything I could do? Would you like to talk? Things like that. My grandfather passed when I was I was 5 or 6. I remember sitting on my father's lap and he was crying, and I remember wiping the tears off his face and telling him it was going to be okay. I understood that my grandfather was gone and he wasn't going to be coming back, but at the same time, I didn't understand why all the tears. I would say I ended up becoming very perceptive to people. it's not like a thing where sometimes people, like, I don't know if you can do it, but people can walk into a room and kind of feel the mood without even really interacting or looking at anybody in the room. I can't necessarily do that, so I'll have to walk in, I'll have to look at people, observe, any body language, and then from there, I will go off of that. So just all of that, basically, that is just simulated emotions that I've been using.
All right, so I want to point this out too, because the one I didn't show you where he was talking about does he want to be in a relationship or not, they compared it to transactional actions. The guy was like, it's like a math equation. He literally will calculate, does this serve me? So we would have a moral compass like, I'm not going to do this because it's wrong or it's going to make a person feel bad. He would say it's not going to serve me. And even in his therapy, because they don't have emotions, so she can't say, well, think of how they feel. He would say, let's say, for example, let me not cheat on my wife because it will cause her distress, and her being distressed is not going to serve me. It's going to cause chaos in my home. They're so logical that it's never done out of empathy. They just do the right thing because they don't want chaos. He also talks about, at the end, he says, he said that he did the interview so that people like him can learn to use the tools they have, which the tools are lying and manipulating people, and use that somehow for good, try to help people. He says it makes the manipulator's life more enjoyable. So even when he's giving advice to other people, he's coming at it from how they think logically. Hey guys, if you want your life to be more enjoyable, use those same things, get off on manipulating people, but do it for good. That way you don't have to constantly hide and lurk within the shadows. He says that a lot of highly functioning people are sociopaths, and they are often attracted to careers that require them to use the logical side of their brain. Doctors, CEOs, and lawyers. He said you're going to see a lot of sociopaths in those careers because they just have to get in there and do what needs to be done. I also wonder sometimes if like people who have to be in violent jobs have to be that way, because I just think about it, I'm like, I don't know if I could pull the trigger even if I needed to. There's certain things that's just so hard for me to override my emotions. Now, what I did find interesting is that he does feel anger. That is definitely an emotion, and he feels anger, and he feels anger when he's disrespected. And what's funny is the interviewer called him out and said, well, doesn't that make you hypocritical? Because he talks about all the things he does to disrespect people and manipulate them, but he doesn't like it when it's done back to him. But shout out to him, kudos to him for doing the work to try to overcome his behaviors, because he can't change his impulses, but he is trying to overcome those behaviors. And he says he tries not to put himself in situations where he knows he can manipulate people. I guess it'd be almost like a predator not allowing themselves to be around children. He just tries not to put himself in situations where the temptation is too strong. I want to see, I think there was another one that I wanted to show you. That might be it. Yeah, feeling disrespect. If he's ever risked to be violent, he said it's definitely a risk, especially when he's angry. So he tries not to do that. So let me know if you guys have ever, he said, shout out to everyone trying to transform their lives. Yes, exactly. We can't change I call them bents, the bent that we were born with, our inclinations. So you shouldn't hate yourself and loathe yourself. Because look at this guy, he's got it rough. But you can always try to do better. He knows that there are resources out there, and he sought help. And I think it's important. And that's one extreme end of the spectrum. And on the other end of the spectrum is an empath. And so we also have to be cognizant of the downsides of that. I know for me, sometimes it's hard to be logical. It's really hard to be logical, especially when it comes to self-discipline, because I might say it feels so good to be in the bed, but my logical brain says, if you get up and work out, you're going to get closer to your goal. And you get upset that you're not at your goal, so why don't you get up? And I battle. It is a battle daily to win the battle over my emotions and have my mind win out. So anyway, I hope you guys found that interesting. Magnus says, I will definitely use what I've learned this evening in discerning amongst my law school peers. I've suspected a psychopath or 12. Yes, I really think this could be helpful information. Also, too, this would be helpful in the workplace because relationships are not always just romantic. Relationships can be familial, your parent, child, cousin, uncle, whatever. It could be coworkers. It could be neighbors. There are a lot of people who will try to manipulate, which is why it's so important that you're in tune with yourself and you have a good understanding of self and you have healthy boundaries, because people will cross you. If they feel that you are a pushover, they will run circles around you. So if you have somebody in your life who is very strong, who's not emotional, you might, but you trust them, you might go to them and say, hey, here's the scenario. Am I being too much of a pushover? Am I asking too much? Am I not asking enough? And those people can help. I know I have a lot of guy friends who are very much not emotional, and they will get me all the way together. A lot of times I'll spill the tea on someone I'm talking to or a scenario, and they'll be like, no, ma'am, no. Because we as women, I think a lot of times we try to rationalize the behavior. Well, he didn't grow up in a loving home, or he did have a rough day today, or, whatever the case may be. There's no excuse for these types of behaviors. Just understand that sociopaths are not able to understand what it's like for the feeling person. So save your breath, save your energy. They're just not going to get it. They look at things in black and white and they say, is it going to serve me? So this also gives me the insight to know if you're dealing with someone, let's say a mate, not saying they're sociopath because they use logic, but if you're dealing with someone who's more logical, instead of trying to plead with their emotions and cry and whine, use logic and say, think to yourself, how will this help them? Okay, babe, if you take the kids to soccer practice, I can have dinner ready in time and we'll have an extra half hour for some grown-up time. Appeal to their logic instead of whine, babe, can you please take them? I don't want to, I'm so tired. You can use this to help get your way. Look at us being manipulators. But manipulate so that everybody wins, not so that you can be self-serving only. Trinicia says, yes, it's hard to be logical. I struggle with my emotions daily. Trinicia knows that is one of my girlfriends. I be calling her like, girl, help me be logical. And I come up with a plan. She's like, that's an amazing plan. And then the next day I don't hold to the plan. That's usually how it goes. Let's see here. So I wanted to know, I try to imagine myself as an empath, what it would be like to be less influenced by emotions and lean more so on logic. Obviously, I don't want to become a psychopath, but that is my goal, to become more logical, to where I'm just so aware of the goals that I have and focus so much on how that emotion will be at the end of my goal that I can override the emotion that I feel right now. So let's say my goal is to lose weight. Instead of focusing on, I'm tired, I don't want to feel like doing this, or I don't want to get up and put my workout clothes on, focus on the emotion I'm going to feel when I am snatched and my waist is where I want it to be and I'm bathing suit ready and everything I try on in the dressing room fits me and there's nothing that I feel like I want to Photoshop. I would never do that. But just I try to focus on those emotions so we can still use our emotions to help us use logic. And I want to know if it's even possible for two people who are on the extreme ends of the spectrum to exist. Because I know that Teresa says focus on the end results. Yeah, I know for me, I piss off logical people because they're like, what is your deal? Oh, and the worst thing you can, ladies, am I wrong? The worst thing you can tell an emotional person is calm down. Calm down. It's not that easy. It's like telling a car that's going 110 miles per hour, slow down, come to a complete stop. It's a process. It is a process that we need to come down from. And somehow saying those words, calm down, escalate. It's like stepping on the gas pedal saying, slow down. Just don't do it. Just stop doing the provocative thing that you're doing. So if you're yelling, stop yelling. If you're talking to them, stop talking to them. If you're doing anything else, just stop. Do things that they like, rub their back, whatever it is. They might want you closer, they might want you further, your partner. But don't think you're going to get anywhere by saying, calm down. That is the worst thing. That is gasoline on a fire. And if you don't know that, by now, you just might not be paying attention. They're saying yes. I also want to know if emotions can be tapped into. I talked, I don't know if it was last week, but one of the weeks, and I was saying, is it possible for guys to learn emotions? Because so many men from the very young age are taught to suppress their emotions. And a lot of times, if you ask a guy how he feels, he'll tell you what he's thinking. Sometimes guys don't even know how to tap into what they're feeling because they're so logical. I remember asking my dad one time about something that I would consider highly traumatic that happened in his childhood. And I said, Dad, how did you feel when that happened? And he was like, feel? He's like, we didn't have feelings. Like, there was no time for feelings. We just had to do. He said, there wasn't an emphasis on feelings back then. It was live, like, get through the next day. And he's like, it's only this new generation that's like, how do you feel? Let's unpack that. What does that do for you inside? I can't even fathom what it would be like to not have emotions. So I wonder if it's possible to make someone feel. I'm going to use a word, or teach them to feel. I'm going to use a term that triggers a lot of people, so brace yourselves. Toxic masculinity. It triggers people because a lot of people hear it's toxic to be masculine, which sounds like it's all encompassing of males. That could not be further from the truth. My understanding of toxic masculinity is a subcategory of masculinity, which to me is not the fault of the man. It is the fault of society that says this is what masculinity looks like, and it's a toxic description. To be masculine is to beat your chest and raise your voice and hit and yell and only have anger. That is what I feel the world teaches men. Mothers and fathers say, dry your tears, boys don't cry. Stop acting like a little girl. Stop being a baby. Stop being maybe worse, they say, right? I think that we teach them very toxic traits. Be a man, grow up. Even with other men, if they're talking amongst themselves, imagine if a guy were to shed a tear talking about something. A lot of guys get really uncomfortable when emotions happen. They literally don't know what to do. One of my hopes is that people can start to get more in touch with their emotions. There's a guy who does a whole, his whole thing is about teaching men how to emote and be in touch with their, sensitive side. And I wish I remember his name. If I remember, you guys just remind me in the comments. I'll try to come back and post it. But he's an older gentleman. He's married, the beard, black guy. But he does some really powerful stuff where he has unlearned a lot of the negative behaviors that he was taught and started learning a lot of things that allowed him to be a softer, more kind and empathetic husband. And he's such a big, tough guy. And it's really cool hearing the things he has to say. So if I can think of his name, I will share that. But I always see him on Facebook. Amazing, amazing stuff. But yeah, I think that we need to really learn how to teach boys, especially, how to experience the emotion, but still logically handle the situation. I asked the guys in my group, I have a private group, and I asked them about a week ago, what is the difference between a man being emotional and having emotions? And they were saying it's when a man can't control his emotions. He should be able to be aware of his emotions, but use logic to decide what to do. So that's basically it. I want to close with what the guy was saying, the guy being interviewed. He said to the victims, he said, if you've ever been manipulated, taken advantage of, it's easy to feel, I'm paraphrasing, but it's easy to feel stupid and, think, my God, I can't believe this happened. He said, don't take it personally. If you've been manipulated, don't feel like something is wrong with you. He said, understand there is something wrong with the manipulator. These people are masters. This is what they've been doing their entire life. They study people. He said he literally likes to go into a room and kind of go under the radar, and he will pick up on different nonverbal cues and body languages and things that people say to be able to mirror them and come back. So this is like next level, master level skill, and you're coming in with the preschoolers, skill set. So don't think that you're a match for them and that you're dumb. A lot of people, I think, can really make others feel silly if they get got and say, how did you not notice the signs? If you're not trained in this stuff, you're not going to know what to look out for. Anyway, guys, I want to give some tips. This is how to maintain a relationship with someone who has these traits. Understand and acknowledge that they might not be able to fully understand your emotions. Let them know how their behavior affects you because they can't experience it for themselves. Hey, when you do this, it makes me feel this, or it causes distress, or however you want to explain it. Appeal to their logical side. Also, you have to make your boundaries explicitly clear to them. Do not wait for them to respect boundaries if you don't say it. A lot of people would have common sense and not do certain things. They're not going to. They're going to push as far as you allow them. So make your boundaries clear and let there be repercussions if they cross them. That was actually the last thing. I got ahead of myself. Offer specific consequences for harmful behavior. So if it's behavior that's harmful, you got to do what you got to do. Even if you're married to them, you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself, protect your family. Remember, it can't be cured, but it can be treated with therapy. It's not hopeless. If they have therapy that focuses on limiting destructive behaviors by replacing them with constructive behavior. So basically he's saying, like, take those things that were meant for evil, try to channel it and use it for good. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight was a shorter night because it was so much to unpack, and I don't have my team with me. You know what? I didn't even look to see, because I'm trying to toggle all this technology. I didn't even look to see if there was anybody else in the group tonight, but that's okay because I had a lot of fun with you guys. Next week, I'll probably let people in. They can just wait in the chat room or the waiting room today. If you guys want to be a part of my Patreon group, I asked that you guys check it out. I'm going to put the link at the very end of the video, but you guys can get exclusive content. I have a lot of vlog content that I'll be posting. You guys can join the live stream on camera, which is the one I just referenced. You guys will join in on that, and you'll actually be seen here on my channel permanently. Obviously, it offers me support, and they're low. Like, one of them is like $3 a month, another's $5 a month, so it's super low. But it goes a long way. A little bit goes a long way, and it helps me to be able to continue to do this full time. You guys also can help me vote on stuff, so I'll put things in there from time to time asking you which direction I should go. I love getting feedback. And you guys can get early access to stuff, and depending on the tier, you can chat with me one-on-one. So if you have certain questions that you want to ask, and I'll be doing Q&As and stuff later on when we get a few more people, because I just started my account. So there aren't a ton in there, people in there yet, but I just ask if you guys want to support. That is a way you can do that. It's patreon.com/Yonci, and like I said, it's going to be on the next screen, so you guys will be able to see it. If you liked this, make sure I didn't mention anything. Oh, thank you, Trinicia. She said this was great. If you guys like this video, please hit like. It lets YouTube know I'm doing something right, and it pushes my videos in front of more people. If you want to give me your feedback, comment, please do. You have no idea how weird it is to talk to a camera. At least when I go live, I can see you guys' comments, and that helps it to be a little less weird. But the comments are everything. So if you're watching this on the replay, let me know your thoughts. Also, let me know where you're watching from, because that's cool to see that. If there's anyone you think could benefit from this, share. And that also helps me, obviously, get in front of more people. And if you really want more, you can hit subscribe. Like I said, I do videos on mental health, specifically how to deal with anxiety and overcome depression without the use of medication. As always, no shame to those who use it. I just want to offer an alternative that doesn't require it. But you can use it with or without the medication if you are prescribed to take it. But I really want people to be empowered. I think so many people just get through life. They're just getting through, looking forward to Friday, but they're not enjoying their life. I feel that if you are truly healthy mentally, every single day feels like a present, feels like a gift, and you just want to burst out of bed and get the most that you can from that day. So if you don't feel like that, go ahead and take a look at some of the videos and figure out some things that you can do to get to that level that you want to be. I also believe that if you are not finding your purpose, if you haven't discovered your purpose rather, you feel empty inside. And a lot of times you'll try to fill that void with artificial fillers. A lot of times that can be relationships. It could be sex. It could be a drive for money, a drive for success, fame, substances that you abuse. You're trying to fill that void because that void can only be filled by fulfilling your purpose. It's like being a lion but carrying your life out as a monkey. You don't feel like yourself because you're a lion. You're not a monkey. And so when you discover your purpose, you can truly start to act out why you were put here on this planet. I am a believer in God, and therefore I believe that each person was handcrafted for a specific purpose. And I think that's pretty cool, because that means that nobody slipped in here by accident. Nobody snuck in. And so each person was here for a purpose, and ultimately our purpose is to serve others. But here's the really cool catch. we're created for a reason, and we're created with a set of skills that is meant to serve others. But when we tap into those set of skills, it is the highest high. So right now, I truly believe that I'm serving others by sharing information, but I love this. This isn't painful. This isn't a chore. I'm not like, oh God, I gotta share today. And so when you're doing your thing, when you're serving people within your purpose, it feels amazing. It is like it's like the feeling in your soul like you get in your belly after the most satisfying meal. It's just perfect completeness. And you don't have anxiety about feeling like you're wasting time on the earth. You don't feel selfish. You don't feel lonely. You don't feel hopeless. You don't feel depressed. You just feel content because that hole is filled. So I just want to encourage you guys to watch that stuff. If that's not what you're experiencing, it is possible to experience that. Oh my God, it is my absolute best friend in the entire universe. And she said, wonderful, excellent delivery. Thank you so much, my love. I will call you Mrs. Smith because I don't know how much of your business you went out here in these YouTube streets, but that means the world to me that you watched. Thank you, love. You guys, you can follow me everywhere on social media as Chasing Yonci. I am on Twitter, but it is a snooze fest. I wouldn't recommend following me there. I don't tweet a lot. You can follow me on Instagram. I be trying to serve face as much as I can, but I do try to leave inspirational messages. I do thirst traps from time to time, my version of thirst traps. So that's what you'll get on Instagram. And then, of course, YouTube, I already told you. And then Facebook, I have my page, Chasing Yonci. Anyway, guys, all right, I think that's it. I'm trying, you guys, to do my, I'm trying to do my stuff here. Let me give you my fancy screen. Okay, here we go. Thank you so much for watching. Here's all my contact information. There's my Patreon. If the Lord put it on your heart to serve, to give back, to share your coins, you can do so at patreon.com/Yonci. If you want to sow into my ministry, as we say, the church folk lingo, you want to sow some seeds, I appreciate that. Well, there's the information, you guys. That's all I have for today. The doors of the church will be closing soon. You don't have to go home, but you do have to get up out of here. You can hang out in the parking lot if you like. Hang out with the other congregants. But I'll be back here same time, same place next week. As always, you guys, tell someone that you love them.